Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Michael Davis Thomas here with me today. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing good. And yourself?
I'm doing quite well, quite well. I like the afro. It's looking real high quality, powerish there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Where you from? Where you from, Michael?
I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah, born and raised. So.
You know, the more I do this show, the more it seems like there are very resilient people who stick out amongst the crowd from Detroit, from Cleveland, from California, Los Angeles, New York. There seems to be almost like these pockets of energy around the country where these top flight people are produced. Would you say that about Detroit?
Yeah, high quality.
Yeah, just good, strong people. You know, one of the smartest gentlemen I ever met, he was from Detroit. His name was Mark. He was a very, very intense person. He was very grounded and extremely meticulous in everything that he did. I learned a lot from him. He was from Detroit, Michigan. Can you talk to me about what it was like for you growing up in Detroit, Michigan?
Well, growing up in Detroit, it's a lot of highs and lows, you know. I basically grew up with a single parent, single mom. My dad was in the picture for a little bit, but the relationship, even when he was in the picture, it was everywhere. You know, it wasn't. I honestly don't believe for myself and don't feel that it was a father-son relationship.
Okay.
And then parents got the kind of divorce, which isn't out of the usual in Detroit. You know, my mom was single parenting it, trying to make it, trying to put food on the table. Had a lot of health issues, a lot of stress, and it was rocky for a long period of time.
Now, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I'm the youngest out of 4.
Okay.
My older brother and sister are twins. They're both 30. And then the middle, I want to say, I always get this wrong. He's older than me, 20-something.
Right. Okay. And so 4 of you growing up essentially with a single mother in Detroit. What was your mother doing for a living at that time?
My mom did a lot of different jobs. I know one of the jobs she had was a teacher's aide for a long period of time. And from my understanding, teacher's aide didn't make that much money.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those thankless jobs where you're actually helping a lot of people. You put in a lot of work as a teacher's aide. You're somebody who gets through to the kids, you know, and you're right. You don't really get compensated as much as you should. So yeah, continue. That was just something I wanted to add in.
That's probably about the only job I can think of. And mainly she took that job because after my dad left, I started acting out with as usual, you know, and she took the job at my school to be closer to me versus going back and forth.
Right. You know, that's deep right there. A lot of the time when a young person is having problems at school, their parents have conversations outside the school. They might stop and have a conversation, but your mother actually decided to come and work at the school.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I'm going to know what Michael is doing.
Yeah.
That's great. You know, and that's different. And it says something about her character Already. Already. Did you have, your other siblings, were they going to the school with you as well?
We all the school was right down the street from us,
Yep.
so
Okay.
we all have been through that school.
Yep.
And sadly, I acted out and eventually got kicked out of that school, along with a couple other ones. But
Mm-hmm.
we all went through the same school. It still stands, Thurgood Marshall. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's still called that, but it's been there for years for many
Mm-hmm.
people in that neighborhood.
Was it like a legacy school for you? Did you have other relatives that went there as well?
I'm not
Like generation before you?
I'm not sure. I know my family, they all have lived in that area of Detroit, the west side of Detroit, but I don't know. That's something I would have to look into. I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Okay. And so would you say that when your father left, that was when you started to pretty much act out?
Um, it was the start of it. It was the start of it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Because I don't believe in people saying, "Oh, this child is bad," or "That child is bad." I don't believe in the term "bad" and children being in the same sentence. And I think that there's a reason for everything, and sometimes you're just born like that. Guess what? We have warriors. We have warriors in our lineage. We have stand up men and women in our lineage. We have people who built homes, made homes, created civilizations in our lineage. And so sometimes that doesn't always translate very well when you don't have a father to educate you, or maybe your mother, she's busy, she's not educating you about how, hey, listen, your energy is nothing wrong with that, but we need to redirect it into something a little bit more constructive. What do you think about that?
I think that's awesome. I kind of, I kind of roll with the punches in my life, especially going through the system, which you probably asked me about a little bit later. But I like to say, nobody taught me how to be the man that I am today. I literally took episodes from TV shows, people who came through my life, staff members, mentors, whoever, and kind of developed the remnants of what I should be and how I should act and conduct myself as a man. So
That is something that I can personally relate to, and I think that other people across the country and the world can relate to that as well. Can you shed some light on that? How you grow up looking at adults and a mix of them being your parents, a mix of them. Some for some people they look at rappers and they say, "Oh, this one and that one combined is my father." And I look at my teachers and I say, "This one and that one combined is my mother." Talk about what that was like for you everywhere you go, looking for the mother and father in people.
okay, so I couldn't start this without telling you, the piece where my mom had 5 strokes when I was 11. It almost seemed like it was back to back. That's when the brunt of my behavior issues ruptured. A lot of misunderstanding, a lot of numbness came into play. My dad wasn't there now. I don't have a mom. All my siblings had went off and done their own thing, either go to college or live with their father. We all have different dads too, so we all had those different sectors of family that they could have went off to.
Right.
So at that point, I started to like when other people started to come in my life. It was a long period and a phase where I was like, I'm tired of people trying to be my parents. I don't care. I'm angry. This shouldn't happen. Why is the world doing this to me? And it was a lot of frustration. And eventually, I got tired. I did reality check programs, boot camps, in and out of juvenile for almost 11 from 14, 15. Then I became like a ward of the state, and then I became a dual ward. Because at that point, the courts had tried to get a hold of my dad. It's this crazy process. When they can't get a hold of your parent, they put a letter out in a newspaper to try to get a hold of him. They even did that, and they couldn't get a hold of my dad. And once I saw that, I was like, that's crazy, So I just like, I got to do what I have to do. And from that period, I went on into foster care. I was considered abuse and neglect. Um, and my mindset going into residentials and facilities after they switched me over was like, I got to do my time because I came from the juvenile side. So I thought you just do your time. But it was very therapeutic for me. It instilled a lot of healing. And I met staff members. I met my mentor, who was the vice president of this agency that I went to. And she helped me a lot, helped me break out of that shell, helped me know that I was there for something more, something greater. Um, even then, when I was in the juveniles, prior to going to my last residential, I was always been a person of faith. That's one thing that my mom instilled in me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would pray, one person to come join me, another person to come join me, and that kind of was the epiphany moments like that in my life that helped me be like, okay, I have to turn the leaf. Nobody's really going to teach me this. I do have staff members. I do have these people that's coming in and out, but I wasn't really ready to hear what they were trying to say
Yeah.
till I had that breaking point for myself. And that wasn't until I got ready to completely almost age out and was in independent living when a lot of things that people were saying started to make sense, started to see relevance in my head. And I was like, this person did say this. It was like everybody that was saying something, it chipped away all at one time. In that moment, it was kind of simultaneously. And I was like, I got to do better. And from that time, it took a year. Because I was bouncing around from schools to graduate when that clicked. I graduated and went straight to college.
And you say you graduated, you went straight to college as if by the time you graduated high school, you were ready to go out there and conquer the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, there was an energy shift for you. At some point, you felt like you were pulling and pulling and pulling to now you're being pushed. Now you have some lift. You can lift off.
Yep.
I think that some of the things that we learned in high school physics were very applicable to life itself. And when you learn about how something that is falling or something that moves naturally is trying to find rest, it's trying to find a resting place. It's going to continue to fall or move until it can find a resting place. And once it finds a resting place, it can then contribute to whatever ecosystem it lands in. And I kind of see you that way. When your mother had those strokes and you were the youngest, you were the baby, it's not like you were the oldest and you already knew how to be successful out there in the world. That must have sent you spiraling downward. It sounds like your world sort of started coming apart at that moment. And I want to know, who was there besides you to help your mother during those times?
People tried to chip in, but mainly it was me and my sister.
Yeah.
I remember me and my sister took guardianship over me and my mom, basically. Well, over my mom, and that simultaneously gave her guardianship over me. So
hold on. You said that you and your sister took guardianship over your mother?
No. So when my sister took guardianship because my mom couldn't do anything on her own anymore, she had to have somebody as her what's the word? Basically, who can write off on stuff. So when my sister took guardianship over my mom, because I was still a minor, that took guardianship over me. So me and my sister, it was like my sister go to work, I'm coming home from school, giving my mom her medicine, bathing her if need be, it was a period my mom had like a feeding tube through her stomach and stuff like that. It was a period where we didn't have in-home nurses coming in and stuff like that, and we were doing all that stuff for ourselves. And it was tough,
But see, this is the warrior spirit that I was talking about. I knew that there was something in there because you were a young kid, not yet a man, taking care of your mother after school. I mean, literally taking care of her. And your sister took guardianship. So, I mean, you all were being agents of change in your own lives. You know, that must have made you stronger. That period of time, it was tough, but it must have made you stronger.
Yeah, it's I went on to use that piece of my life in many other scenarios and different things like that. It's just I guess for me in that moment, I had to become a man early. I had to step up to the plate, and it really didn't help because I still didn't deal with things that I was angry about. But I tried to do my best as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Supporting my mom as best as possible. So
So talk to me about some of the adversities that you faced after your mother had that period of time, because I know that it wasn't easy for you when you say that you acted out a few different times, but can you explain a couple times when you just really faced adversity as you were trying to get over that hill?
So a lot of my behavior issues stem from being severely bullied in school,
Mm.
and some other abusive scenarios that happened in my life.
Mhm.
But mainly school was the biggest thing. So my mom had strokes. Shortly after that, medical bills started coming in. I was engaged in band and after school activities. Suddenly, things were getting taken back. My instruments, and stuff like that. Things, we couldn't get this. My mom, we was already pretty poor. Like we was, EBT and all.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It's something about my mom didn't make it seem that way. She still tried to make a way. Um,
Mhm.
but being bullied, being talked about. It got to a point where I got embarrassed to even, invite my mom to different things because, I would have to wheel her into the school and I had to deal with that next Monday with the school, with the kids talking about me. And,
Right.
that kind of resonated in me, for years. I was just like make stories up,
Yeah.
just make
Yeah.
it seem
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. And you know what? I also would like to spin this moment into a victory for you. And I want you to talk about bullying and where it needs to go.
Um, for me, I'm always an advocate because both sides need help. The person that's being bullied and the person that's bullying. Um, and I like to say, because I've been on both sides, I've been on both sides because I got tired of being bullied. So I figured if I can beat them to the punch, you know, I'll be all right,
Yeah.
um, which is why I shared a hashtag, which it kind of resonates here. Therapists need therapists,
Mhm.
everybody needs somebody to talk to. Everybody needs help. Mental health, self care, self awareness is a big point in all cultures and all ethnicities. And the more that people hide away from it, the harder it gets. Um, for most males, it becomes more of a mental state where they numb themselves. We
Mhm.
see that in repeat offenders. We see that in people who commit suicide. And many different things. Many different scenarios. And I'm just, I want to, take this moment to advocate that, everyone has a story. Everyone has a reason where they got to where they are and where they are where they are. If you're out there bullying somebody, or if you getting bullied by somebody, seek help. Seek help. Speak up. Your voice matters. Even a bully's voice matters.
Yeah.
Everybody needs help.
Yeah. And also it also stands to reason that somebody who's is outright attacking other people is because they're trying to get attention. And so, unfortunately, sometimes we live in areas, pockets of societies where people's home and life is so broken, so dysfunctional that they're outright attacking people. They're literally coming to an aggregate space like the schoolhouse and attacking people. And we look at it like bullying is a situation where one person is hurting the other. But you said something that was absolutely huge, which is that a lot of the time the bully needs help too. And so wherever there is bullying going on in our communities, we need to say there's a chance that a lot of these people here, they need healing at home because they're crying out for help. They're literally putting hands on one another due to the frustration and the anger and the pain. You never know what somebody's going through at home. And so you make a great point that bullying is a symptom of a deeper reality that needs to be addressed. Absolutely. Absolutely. And everybody's voice is critically important to the whole as well. So talk to me, what sorts of things did you aspire to be, let's say at the age of 15 years old?
After going through courts, I thought about being a judge. I actually was like, I'm going to be a Supreme Court justice,
Yeah.
And switch from that to I'm going to be a probation officer. And
Okay.
switch from that to I'll be a corrections officer. It was
Right.
in that area. It was always the criminal justice. And then, it kind of just, I kind of like to think that life has a purpose for you. God has a purpose for you,
Right.
and it's bigger than yourself. Even though I had these aspirations for myself, it seemed always that I was getting pushed to something else, and it wasn't until I was like, all right, we're gonna go with the flow, that I got started getting pushed into the advocacy realm. I started speaking on panels, telling my story. And it wasn't until I started telling my story, which is why I talked about, therapy looks different for everybody else, that I started to heal internally with those wounds that I was carrying. That care started to flow back inside of me. And I was able to release that, that anger, and it was crazy because I would tell my story and I'd just be speaking my truth. And to see that it was helping other people resonated with it, it helped me get past those walls internally.
Absolutely. This platform was made for you. When you say that, when you started sharing your story, that it helped to heal you and that care started flowing through your body again, that just made my mind go to a whole nother realm, because that's what's happening, is that people don't feel like anybody cares about them. So the impact is that the resonance of care within them, it leaves. And they can't get that back until somebody hears them out. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I'm acting out. Yes, my aspirations are low. In order for me to change this, I need you to hear me out. I need you to know what's going on with me at home. Would you agree with that?
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it sounds like we need stages like these. We need venues like these where people can come and tell their stories, because when you tell your story, now we're getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We have several comments in the building. Michael, you're getting a lot of love out there today. Sierra Young is here. Chastity Curry is here. Ani Keen Riley's here. Yolanda Riley's here. Lamar Taylor, we see you. Kevin Woods, we appreciate you. And so you are not falling on deaf ears this morning, Michael. And the way that you decided to change your life is a great example for other people to pick up and follow. Now, you mentioned spirituality a couple of times. Where was the seed of spirituality planted for you?
Well, my mom always kept us in the church. My mom was a young mother, so the church wrapped around her, and it conveniently wrapped around us when we had our struggles and stuff like that, which showed more. My mom passed away 2019. And I know this kind of really doesn't resonate to your question, but
no, it does, because that was a spiritual thing.
Yeah, and when my mom passed away, the church really helped us, to bury her, because my mom didn't have insurance. A lot of people that were there from my childhood supported us and helped us bury my mom outright. And that kind of, moments like that resonate in my spirituality. But the big part that kind of stuck with me is I was always in choir. I grew up with a lot of people in church that aren't here today, and some of them I thought would have made it over me, because I was the one that went into the system. They stayed at home with their parents, and a good friend of mine got shot and killed. He was one of my church friends, and I kind of look at those moments and I was like, it's a reason that I'm here. Somebody had to be out there protecting me. I remember when I was in my juvenile cell, and I want to say it was 12 when I knew I wasn't going back home. They wouldn't let me back home that time. I was just sitting there, and only thing that flew through me were like church hymns. And it was weird because I was like, I didn't want to think about that. I was mad. I was angry, church hymns and different things. And I was just singing, counting the bricks in my juvenile cell. And I was like, all right, if I got to do this, if I have to change, if I have to go through this, if it's meant for me to be here, I'm going to do it with you, God. And I had that conversation with God and myself. Even though I was angry and frustrated, going through juveniles, going through reality check programs, still messing up, still sinning, doing all these other crazy things.
Right.
God has always been with me, I felt like, and he's always been like, okay, this is this. You got to go through this, and when I look back over those moments in my life, it was no other way for me to go because I had to go through that so I can do the work that I do today for others. Wow. My story had to happen so I could be there and work in a residential and tell the kids like, hey, y'all got to make it because ain't nobody else going to do it for you. There's no backwards, so, my story, you go ahead.
I know everybody out there is not a Christian. I appreciate everybody who tunes in to America's Next Motivator. But when I hear this man talk about the role that God played in his growth, I'm hearing his connection to the universe. The energy of the world was with him, in a positive way. The positive energies, the helpful energies of the world was what he got in tune with. And believe it or not, when you sing these songs, these spiritual songs to your children, they hear you. When they get in your car and the music that you're playing on the radio, they hear it. If you stop in church and they hear that choir, it goes a long way, because when you get by yourself in a residential treatment center or a group home setting and you're isolated, those songs, they come back and they work on you. Those songs, they come back, they inspire humility, they inspire courage, they inspire faith. Michael, do you know what faith is? Can you talk about it?
Yeah. Faith for me has always been something that I was like, if you can, I used to say this all the time. God, if you can show me this one time, I'll stop. Turn around. If you would help me this one time, get out of this situation.
Right.
I'll stop. And that, I used to say that all the time, and sometimes I catch myself being like, Lord, if you help me get to this gas station, I will remember to get gas, I still do it sometimes as an adult, and as a child, that was my remnants of faith, God working, bringing you out of situations. But as I grew up, faith for me has been a stronghold. It's been my protection. And it's been what has kept me grounded in the wisdom and knowledge that I've gained throughout years. It's been that staircase that I can always grab onto when I catch myself falling.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Michael Davis Thomas. This man didn't get here by accident. He's put a lot of work in, and he's giving back in the community as well. His work may have started a couple decades ago, but he's got a lot more years ahead. We'll be right back after this brief message with more from Michael Thomas. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with Michael Thomas, and I just want to let you know, somewhere in here, we're here for you. I'm talking about you out there in TV land, in the internet space, on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you may be today. Somewhere in this episode, we are speaking to you. Let me know in the comment section, or even after with a follow-up, that something that we talked about today is something that you experienced as well. Michael, you were talking about faith. You were talking about spiritual anchorage and how it enabled you to get through places like the residential treatment facility. For those people out there who don't know what a residential treatment center is, can you talk about what it is and what's the culture like there?
Well, there's different type of residential facilities, but most of the programs that I were in were group-based. Now, my take on them, is kind of different. They can be helpful to the resilient, but those who haven't found their voice yet, they can be damaging. They can be re-traumatizing. And from my experience, I was, lucky enough to be able to be resilient, to take in what I can and take the key components from the situation. I was in a lot of different facilities, from lockup to low secure to minimum secure. My last residential was minimum secure. It was group-based. We had therapy. Some of the staff members weren't the best, but I had to take what I had from that situation. And like I said prior, when I would go into these residential facilities, it was like, in my mind, I was like locked up in jail or prison or something like that. In my mind, that's the conception that I had. So I was like, I got to do my time and get out. That's what helped me make
time.
Yeah.
You thought you were doing time. Did other people who were there feel like they were doing time as well?
Yeah, because all of us there, we were talking amongst ourselves and like, oh, well, you had a behavior issue, so you must be here for that reason. We wasn't there because, in our mind, or for me at least, not until I got ready to almost leave, I felt like I was there because I didn't have no other place to go. I felt like I was there because I needed help. I needed therapy. I needed all these different things. That mindset didn't click in until almost when I got ready to walk out the door. But while I was there, I was just trying to survive. It was a very surviving situation. You deal with bullying in there. You deal with people trying to be dominant male, people trying to display their feathers and stuff like that. And if you don't do something right or you tell on them, you get beat up,
Wow.
And, it's kind of like, contraband, all these different things you see is really like a jail mindset. It really is.
So given your background, a kid who it wasn't because you were a criminal that you end up getting passed through the system. It was because there were some things that stopped working at home. And so because things stopped working at home, long story short, you end up doing time, quote unquote, in a facility where people have a crab in a barrel mentality, and you have to almost find a way to slip through the cracks or be pulled down along with other people. What do you think can be done better in a place like residential treatment centers?
Well, for me, I love that you said crab in a barrel mentality. What residential seem to do to kids, mostly juvenile facilities too, I kind of put them all in the same because they built the same, is instill institutionalization. If you're already dealing with PTSD, basically you get into the mindset that I'm locked up. I got to do my time, and sometimes it's hard to get out of that mindset once they free you. Once you get out on your own to society, you find yourself still doing things like you locked up. Like for me, once I got out, or when I went on home visits, I would ask my sister, "Can I go to the bathroom?" She'd look at me like I'm crazy. When I would get angry, what we would do was call group meetings or group sessions. I would get angry at home, after getting out, and I'd be like, "We need to have a group session." My family look at me like I'm crazy, Right. These things that institutionalize you, that puts you into that mindset that you're not free, that you're not your own citizen, that you have to adhere to all these different rules. Now, I mean, the world may be some things, but it locks you in your own mind.
And also, it sounds like it can make you feel a little bit less human. Like, yep. I'm a little bit less human. I don't have as much freedoms as everybody else. In order for us to be functional, we're going to have all different types of formalities. We got to have rules for everything. We got to have group sessions. We got to be walking in a straight line. We got to be, being seen as a number, so to speak. What can we do? What can we do to make sure that young people who are in the system keep their soul?
Now, I believe that, group programs have a time and a period. But what happens is when the system starts getting conjunctive, they put anybody and everybody in the same group. So that means people who have committed crimes, like that need to be on the juvenile side to get that help, are in the same unit, same facility as those that are abuse and neglect, that just got out of a very abusive situation. So you got people that's committing crimes and those who didn't do anything wrong thinking that they did something wrong, which is hence myself. When I went to residential, we were combined together, and I'm like, okay, well, you treating them the same as me, which, we all should be treated equal, but the therapy looks different. The treatment looks different. There's different kind of healing that needs to be involved. When you put foster care or abuse and neglect youth with JJ youth, which are juvenile justice, you get re-traumatized in situations. Most times, foster youth deal with a problem with using their voice, self-advocating and stuff like that. So they get dominated by those JJ youth. They get bullied. They get re-abused by those JJ youth. If not, the staff members that are low trained, because most staff members in residentials, because it's a high turnover job, are people that are just straight out 18 or straight out of college with no real training.
Yeah, they could use a little bit more life experience. And then what it also sounds like you're saying is, let's say I'm a kid that I'm here because I was fighting, right? Fighting is one offense, but because of re-traumatization and you dealing with somebody who they got their chest sticking out further than yours, you end up, you used to be just a fighter, but now you fight, you smoke cigarettes, you might be looking for some weed to smoke, you might be looking for your first sip of alcohol, you're looking for ladies, you're disrespecting adults. And so when you get out, you have 4 or 5 other things that you picked up that you didn't originally go there doing. Is that true or false?
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely. And it's
and I was going to say, in a sea of a lot of people doing that, coming out worse than they came in, you actually made a different type of decision while you were there that resulted in you coming out a better person than you went in. Is that true?
Yeah.
Talk to me about some of the people that helped you, and what was it that they did that helped you?
So I might have to reverse your question. So when I was in my last residential, I didn't get the help. That's what really made me be like, all right, I got to turn this up. I have to advocate for myself because this is not me. I don't want to be here. Like these people, they got some real issues. I know I got issues, but in my head, I'm like, these people got some real issues. They really need help, and they're not getting it. So in my mindset, I needed to advocate for myself to advocate for everyone else.
Wow.
So I did a lot of things, and I got a lot of brunt because people wasn't doing what they have to do. Staff members wasn't, they were dropping the ball. So when I would go to court, I would advocate. I was like, look, this is happening. I don't know if this is right, but hey, like I don't care if they do something to me, but as long as they get help. We supposed to get phone calls. They're not giving us phone calls because what's the name act up. I don't think that's right. That we all got to be held up because another person did that. I don't know what that is, but I know a little bit about recipient rights. One thing that I did do was when I was in juvenile and I was in residentials, I took law dictionaries. I took recipient rights handbooks. I read the whole thing and analyzed it. So people hated me. Staff members that wasn't doing their job hated me because I would call them out. I was like, what's not going to happen is they're going to treat us like crap. We already done that. That already happened. You can't do any worse. So if anything, while I'm here, I'm gonna make sure that everybody else is good. And that's the kind of mentality that I got in those residentials. I was quote unquote what you call like a positive peer. We did have a negative peer, but it was kind of really like a gang mentality. When things are disrupt, me and that negative peer would come amongst each other and talk like, look, man, we got to go on home visits. If you got this cell phone that you're not supposed to have, that you hiding, man, give it up. I ain't gonna say you had it or whichever, but give it up, and it was literally like that. We would have to work each other. It was like the kids were working the group versus actual people who's supposed to be.
Right. And so you all were talented young leaders, despite what it might have looked like on the outside, and you actually became an activist for yourself and for others. You became an activist for yourself and for others. And I think that I saw that in you as soon as the show started. And here you are as we round third base, making it plain and clear that you stood up for yourself and you stood up for other people. See, you were a leader from the time that you were born. And so now when you got out, we got a comment in the building. Sierra Young says, that's powerful to be the voice for the unruly who didn't know or didn't care. Such a stand-up move. And I totally agree. When you decided to not just do what everybody else was doing and say, hey, I'm going to make my case in more of a positive standing. I'm going to influence you to do the same thing. And then you didn't even try to change the other kids. Sometimes we try to change everybody else. You didn't even try to change the kids who wanted to be unruly. You said, hey, you're the top unruly guy. Let's have a sit down. Let's have a compromise. To me, that is big time leadership on your part. Big time leadership on your part. So when as you got wind of what you could potentially be, what did you do after you graduated high school, and talk to us about the work that you're doing today?
So after I graduated high school, the test wasn't over. The storms didn't stop.
That's right. That's right.
I went to college. It was overwhelming. Most of my times were in and out of high school. I didn't really pay attention until I really had to graduate. So that means I went to 21 different high schools altogether. I graduated in my 21st, and it was an alternative school.
You said you went to 21 high schools?
Yeah.
My mind is blown. How did you? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
And the last school I graduated from an alternative school. So most residential education is special education where they sit you on a computer and they give you a little assistance. So when I got to college, I felt like the underdog. All these smart people around me. I don't know what I'm really supposed to do here, but I know this is what the world had made up and made up the conception that you get to college, you're gonna make it. You good. You good once you get to college. So my GPA wasn't at the point where I could go and get into a dorm or get into a 4-year yet. So I had to go to a community college, and then I went to a 4-year, but I still couldn't get a dorm. So I was living all in that period of time off campus. Now, when stuff started hitting the fan, bills had started coming in. It was easier for me to be like, okay, well, I don't know about college, but I know I can work, So I left college. Didn't do it the right way. I messed up my financial aid. Started working all odd and end job, landscaping, car detailing, CNA, EMT, doing all these things. And I had to get certifications for these things in this period of time. So education didn't stop for me. Right. I eventually landed at the residential, and then 3 months prior to being there with my experience, I got promoted to being over that program at that residential. And ended up going to work one day, got into a car accident, going 15 miles per hour, slipped into a ditch. And that was the start of a domino effect. Insurance was high. I personally wasn't paying insurance at the time, so I got a ticket. I got a few fines. Couldn't afford to fix my car. Got it fixed, and with people's help. And by that time, I wasn't having the time period to get into get rent done or anything like that. And one thing led to another that, lost my place, ended up homeless, ended up staying with some friends, and wasn't the best situation, made the best out of it.
If I can, let me say this, because I've had some of those experiences as well. And I understand that when you start to lift off and you start to go to college and university, that entire culture, first of all, it's a culture shock that there's other people out there your age that are 10 years advanced of you. Some of the things that you started doing in high school, they started doing when they were leaving elementary school. And so you realize the talent and the competition that really exists out there in the world. And guess what? You realize that you are in uncharted waters. You've never been here before. You never knew how to do this. You never knew at no step along the way of your journey did you know how to go to college and succeed. When you got there is when you started figuring it out. Now, hey, when you start figuring it out, guess what? It's just like your first major exam. You wake up, you run into the school building, it's like, all right, everybody, we're getting ready to start this test. I hope you have 2 number 2 pencils already sharpened. I hope you have a blue ink pen and a black ink pen. I hope you have 2, 3 ring binders. You're like, oh man, I came here with 1 pencil, no eraser. And so you have to go through the bumps in the road of going back to get the other tools under your tool belt that you needed. But here you are today. So you're in college right now, is that correct?
Yeah. It's a crazy story how I ended up here. Long story short, after the friends didn't work out, I went to a homeless shelter. I was homeless for approximately almost a year. Met the president of my college doing a devotional at the shelter. And prior to that morning, I went to Michigan Works, which is a place where you can find jobs and stuff like that. And I gave her my resume and my cover letter. I was like, hey, I don't know what you can do, but I need to get back in college and I need to get a job. And I gave her my resume and cover letter. Next thing you know, she called me back, said, we're going to get you in school. We're going to get you a job. I started working as a mascot and working as a clerk assistant and doing some other work, speaking events for the college. I was in a homeless shelter with 3 different jobs and going to school full time. And
congratulations, man. This man right here, y'all. If you can, let me get some lights in the building, some hearts in the building, some support in the building, because this man right here, he never stopped. He never stopped. I know sometimes I'm yelling through the computer, but I'm trying to let you know in real life, this man, he never stopped, y'all. He never stopped. Michael, I want you to talk to people out there. They might have started school and didn't finish. I want you to take about 30 seconds and provide some encouragement to them, please.
In life, you go through ups and downs, you go through tests and trials, whatever they may look like to you. You may have a bad breakup, bad relationship, something you do with somebody else. But the thing is to remember is whatever you choose to do, whether you go to college, go get a trade, start a business, whatever it may be. I just want you to remember that, you got to think about yourself. You got to do self-care, and don't be afraid once you make it to help others. It could be small things. I was in a shelter and I dress in a suit and tie every day. And people, when I would walk, they would see me in the shelter and they would come up to me asking me for $1. And I would give them that $1, even though I really didn't have it myself. And I would leave them with a message saying that, where I'm staying at tonight. And they were like, no, where are you staying? I was like, I'm staying in the same shelter next to you. I was in the same bunk when you woke up this morning.
Wow.
Wow. So I had to change the narrative. And sometimes you got to change the narrative in your life and change the perception that you have upon yourself and continue going forward. It's not always about fighting, but it's not even always about surviving. It's about taking the lessons throughout the journey and continuing through the obstacles.
Absolutely. One way or another, you had to become a man. Your father wasn't there to place the book of life in your hands that he had written down. You had to go into the different pockets of society to learn the lessons that you needed in order to be who you are today. You had to go out there and get those organic lessons. I'm sure when you were in that homeless shelter, you were thinking, this is not a place I can stay. This is not for me. Did it stink in there? What did it taste, look, and smell like in the homeless shelter as a young man? Talk to me.
One thing, I didn't get to wear my own clothes to sleep. Had to walk down the hallway because of bed bugs and different things like that, naked to the shower every night. Wow. And that took a bit of pride. As a man, that took a bit of pride out of me. But I knew this is what I had to go through. I had to endure this to get the after effect, get the blessing after. No blessing, no good thing comes without sacrifice. And that was the lesson that I had to learn. Like, I can't just give up because this is what it looked like. I had to think about what is after this. If I'm going through all this right now, it got to be something great at the end. That was where my mindset was. It has to be great because I'm sick and tired. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of, having to, not wear my own clothes to sleep. I have to sleep with people snoring, talking in their sleep. But I knew
overcame that.
Yeah. I knew at the end that it was something greater. And that's kind of where I conceptualized in my mind that, okay, it got to be a blessing. It got to be this. It got to be a new car. It got to be a house. Whatever it is, it's better than this. And I'm going to do what I have to do to make it there at the end. It wasn't a great shelter. There was a lot of rules that were constricting. I could even use Wi-Fi. So I was going to school. So those snowstorms, walking in snow and all these different things, beard froze, all that just to get Wi-Fi and work outside. I would sit outside the shelter because I couldn't bring my computer in and try to do homework some nights. I would sit outside, the cafe to do homework some nights and stuff like that. I would get up every day at 6 a.m. and make it back to the shelter for dinner.
You know what? If somebody wants to get in touch with you to support you, to follow your story, how can we continue to follow your story?
Well, I'm on Facebook. It's my regular name, Michael D. Davis Thomas. You can always reach out. Also, I'm on Instagram, Dr. Michael Speaks. I'm also, I'm working for River Jordan as a housing coordinator and peer support specialist and housing manager for transition age youth. But best thing to do is look up my name on the internet. I have different stories and different things like that, but I'm always willing to accept anybody. You can message me on Facebook anytime. Anytime. I will respond.
Do you aspire to be a doctor?
Yes. I'm a double major in political science, law, and society with a minor in public administration. I'm
Wow.
planning to get 2 doctors and a master's.
What's next for you?
Well, I want to run for Congress. And then I don't know if I want to go further to federal Congress or Senate. But I am thinking about governor one day too. I just want to make sure that I'm at the executive level so I can make the policy changes that need to happen for foster care youth and for people that are dealing with poverty situations. You don't necessarily got to make it into foster care to go through what I've been through.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that every voice is heard and every voice is answered.
Absolutely. You know what, Michael, you have been a great show today. And, you know, you display some of the things that we all need to take from and learn from and use in our lives. I want to let you know that I've heard you today to my very core, and I respect your journey. I think that if and when you go to run for Congress or whatever you decide to do professionally, people should support you in that capacity because you're a real one. I want to give you a crown today. I want to give you a crown today while you're still living. And I want to let you know that you are America's next motivator.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Without a doubt. Thanks for stopping by, all right?
No problem.
All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys coming through showing support. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator will have something here for you. All you've got to do is stop by and pick it up.